In this video, we'll show you how to make a portfolio website in WordPress for 2018 and 2019. Regardless of whether you're a photographer, designer, artist, professional, or creative freelancer, we'll show you how to create a portfolio website to showcase your skills and work. In doing this, we'll teach you how to create this exact website here, as well as how to customize every aspect of it, including the navigational style, layout and structure, visual elements such as colors, hover states, and galleries, so that you end up with the exact portfolio website you want. In the portfolio website tutorial, we'll create a website that features an optimized UX design, is SEO friendly, and fully responsive, to ensure your portfolio website looks perfect on all devices. So, if that sounds good, then let's get started. On the Oakland blog, we've created a step-by-step guide that you can follow along with for free. The link will be in the description below and in the info card for this video. Here, you'll find the written instructions as well as any links mentioned in this video. We would recommend opening the post in a new tab so you can follow along. For this tutorial, we will use the Ultra theme by Themify. Via the description below and on the Oakland post here, you'll be able to access the theme as well as view the live demo. Similarly, to show you how to start your portfolio website with WordPress, we suggest using Bluehost as your hosting provider. With the link in the description below and on the Oakland post here, you'll be able to access discount hosting and a free domain name if you haven't purchased one already. We'll cover the steps on how to set this up shortly. If you've got your domain and hosting already, that's fine, you'll still be able to follow along. We recommend Bluehost as they provide great quality hosting at an affordable price. They have an intuitive user dashboard. They will also automatically install WordPress for you and provide 24/7 support, making it the ideal option for beginners. As an affiliate partner, they'll also set aside a few dollars to help fund future free tutorials like this one. So thanks for using the links provided. Okay, so let's begin with what you need to do before you start making your portfolio website using WordPress. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make when making a portfolio website is that they forget to begin with the end in mind. Thinking about what you want to ultimately achieve with your site will make the process a whole lot smoother and produce a better result. Before we start installing WordPress and creating your posts and pages, it's important to take a moment to define your target audience, identify your niche, and consider the things that will make your site uniquely you and entice users to engage. What is the goal of your portfolio website? To attract potential employers, to grow your social media following, to showcase examples of your previous projects, or perhaps something entirely different? Whatever it is, make sure it's clear. In the article on the Oakland blog, we provide you with a broader insight into why you would want to start your own portfolio website. Feel free to pause the video and read through it if you feel you need more guidance. It's important that you have a firm grip on the goal and identity of your portfolio website before you begin. If you have multiple portfolios or suites of your work to show off, you should start organizing them by category. This could be the niche or the type of work, for example, your resume and personal skills or traits, UX or UI design, web design, or branding. The same can go for any other industry or line of work. One way to do this is to think about the individual portfolios you want to include and the categories you'll use to group these on your site. This will make it easy for visitors to find specific information that's relevant to them. A good approach here is to find a portfolio or resume site in a similar niche and analyze how they use categories to structure their content, as well as how they are used for navigation. The idea isn't to copy what someone else is doing, but to figure out what you think works well and how you can improve the experience of your site. Once again, invest some time in the strategy side of planning out your site content. By taking a moment to sketch out the sitemap of your site, you'll find that you get a much better result. For example, we created this sitemap where you can see the pages that will be included in our site, as well as the portfolios and portfolio categories that will be used to organize them. By now, you may have already decided on a name for your blog. However, if you haven't, there's a few things you should consider, such as, is the name unique and memorable? Is it a name you can scale and grow with? The value of keeping the name of your site as short as possible. And of course, is the domain name available? To check if the domain name you want to use is available, follow the Check Domain Availability button on the Oakland post here. That will take you through to the Bluehost site. From here, click on Domains in the top menu. Here, enter the domain name and choose the free domain extension you want. If your domain name is available, you will be taken to a page to review and purchase it. Alternatively, if it's not available, you will be shown other options, or you will need to try something else. We'll cover off on purchasing your hosting and securing your free domain name in the next step. Let's start off the process of creating your portfolio website with preparation and planning. There are a few things you'll need to make the process of creating your site a lot smoother. These are a must-have for any blog or website. They will be used throughout your site on every page and help all of your website look coherent throughout. A logo. Make sure that you have all the variations you need, like a horizontal and vertical version, dark and light version, as well as different sizes so that it fits perfectly wherever you use it. A favicon. This is the logo your website will display in the browser tab. It's usually square, but you can create the illusion of an irregular shape by using an image with a transparent background, like a .png. Brand color palette. A coherent design always starts with a brand color palette. This usually consists of a main color as well as a few complementary colors. Tools like Paletton.com, Adobe Color, or ColorHex.com can help you pick a color palette. A small budget of $100 to $150. This will fund the cost of your domain, hosting, premium WordPress theme, images if required, and if you want to hire a designer to create some of your branding assets, it may be up to $300. We have created an article that details the expenses you will face as you build your website or blog on this article on the Oakland site. Firstly, let's take a look at website design. In this section, we'll provide an introduction to user experience or UX design. For this, take out a sheet of paper or open your favorite drawing tool and sketch out the pages you want to include on your site. The most common include a home page, about page, contact page, portfolio page, services page, and a blog page, including the individual post pages and the blog archive page or category pages. You might have more or less depending on exactly what type of portfolio site you have, but make sure you draw it out. Next, for each page, create a rough guide for what will be on the page in terms of text, images, videos, and other elements, such as counters, bars, testimonial sliders, etc. Will there be a sidebar? If so, on what side, and what will be included within the sidebar? From a user experience perspective, you should think about the most important action that you want the user to take on that page, and make sure it's both above the fold, meaning it's visible when the page first loads, and it's obvious and/or repeated in a way that makes it easy for the user to engage. For example, for a portfolio website, you would probably want to convince as many visitors as possible to connect with you, whether it's to enlist your services or as a potential employer. You could use buttons that link to your contact details and your brand colors to draw the user's attention. Spread these throughout your portfolio pages at important content, like where you describe your services. The same goes for other images on your other pages of your site. If your goal is to sell items, you could have a call to action or CTA button that says something like "Buy now." Or if it's meant to be a portfolio of your work, it could be a button that says "View more." You also need to consider how users will consume your content. Typically, content will be consumed from top to bottom and from left to right. If your target market consumes content differently, make sure you've considered this. Does the flow of information you're presenting make sense? Does it logically take them through a process or tell a story? Because it should. For your homepage specifically, view the live demos for the premium WordPress theme we'll use in this tutorial by following this button here on the Oakland post. Then go through the layouts and see if there's a certain layout that resonates with you. We'll use the portfolio photography layout here. However, you can use whichever layout you want. If you haven't already, the first step is to register your domain, set up your website hosting account, and install WordPress for your website. Before we go ahead, let's go over some important concepts. Your domain, or URL, is the web address for your website, and is what users will type into their browsers to access your site. For Oakland, it's ohklyn.com. Pick something that works for you. Hosting is what allows your website to be accessible to users 24/7. It's the process of storing the content and data for your website on a web server and serving it to users. For this tutorial, we'll walk you through getting started with Bluehost, as we believe it's the best option for beginners. So, let's go through the steps for setting up hosting for your blog and registering your free domain with Bluehost. Here is a list of the types of domains that are included for free, the most common being a .com or .co. If you've already purchased your domain, or if you want to purchase an alternative top-level domain, such as something relevant to your niche, or a country-specific domain like .co.uk or .com.au, you can purchase that domain through a registrar like GoDaddy, Crazy Domains, or any other domain registrar. We'll add some links below. If you go with that option, or if you've already secured your domain name, all you need to do is then change what is called the domain name service to point at Bluehost, which will be your new hosting provider. Fortunately, we've written an article and a step-by-step guide on how to do this, which you can access here. To get started, follow the Bluehost link in the description below, or if you're on the Oakland website, follow this button here. We'll then click on Get Started Now. You'll then select the plan that's right for you. If you intend to have just the one domain, then the first option will be fine. Alternatively, if you want to have multiple domains on the one hosting account like we do, then you'll need to select one of the other plans. You can always amend this down the track. The great thing about Bluehost is that you get a 30-day money-back guarantee on any plan, so you can get started risk-free. For this example, we'll select the first option. To get your free domain name, you'll enter the desired domain name for your website into the new domain field and select the domain extension you want, for example, .com, and hit Next. If the domain name isn't available, you'll get an error message and will need to either select an alternate domain name or try to contact the owner of the domain to purchase it from them, or select another top-level domain extension. If you've already purchased your domain name, enter your domain name in the Transfer Domain field and select Next. Remember to review the article on how to change the DNS records to point at Bluehost. To set up your hosting account, enter in the required account information. In the Package Information section, choose your desired hosting term and domain add-on preferences. We recommend selecting Domain Privacy Protection so that the personal information that's associated to your domain isn't publicly available. This is optional, of course. Once you've entered in the required information, add your payment details, review the terms, and select Submit. Once you've done that, you'll be taken to this page here. You would have been sent a confirmation email to the designated email address on the account, as well as a WHOIS verification email. Follow the link in that email to verify the email associated to your new domain. You will need to create a password for your hosting account. To do that, click on Create Your Password. Make sure to pick a secure password. You could use the Suggest Password tool to help you with this. Once you've entered in your password, review the terms of use and select Next. You will then be able to log into your Bluehost dashboard. As part of the new Bluehost offering, WordPress will automatically be installed on your new domain. If you've registered your domain elsewhere, you'll need to amend the DNS records to point at Bluehost and install WordPress using the Bluehost one-click WordPress install. For the steps on how to do this, review our article on the Oakland blog. You can follow this link on the tutorial post here. You can choose to install one of the free pre-selected WordPress themes on your domain. However, with WordPress themes, you typically get what you pay for. As premium themes are regularly updated when WordPress changes, they're often more secure. They provide you with access to support, as well as a greater range of design and customization options. So for this tutorial, we'll use a premium WordPress theme and select Skip this step. WordPress will now be installed on your domain. To access the backend of your WordPress website, click Start Building. This will prompt a guided tour, which you can choose to run through or not. We'll go through this in our tutorial, so we'll click on I don't need help. This will take you to the Bluehost tab within the backend of your WordPress website. To access your WordPress dashboard, click on Dashboard in the menu on the left. There will be a number of notifications that you can action or dismiss by clicking on the X in the top right corner. You can amend what's visible on your dashboard by clicking on the Screen Options drop-down in the top right corner and checking or unchecking the boxes. A number of additional plugins will be installed. You can view these by hovering over plugins in the admin menu on the left and selecting Installed Plugins. In addition to the standard WordPress plugins, Bluehost will install a few other plugins like Jetpack, Mojo Marketplace, etc. You can leave these active or choose to deactivate and delete these plugins. We'll leave this up to you. We'll delete ours, as we like to use as few plugins as possible. This can be done in bulk, by selecting the checkbox next to the plugin, choosing Deactivate from the Bulk Actions drop-down, and then clicking Apply. We'll then delete all of the selected plugins by selecting them and hitting Delete. Then return back to the WordPress dashboard. If we enter our domain name into a browser, we'll see that WordPress is now installed. Congratulations! You officially have a new WordPress website. It's not much at the moment, but you're a lot closer than you realize. As part of this process, we'll provide a link to our video on how to set up your free SSL certificate, which will encrypt the data on your site. This is best practice as it improves the security on your site, allows you to take payments on your site, and will improve your Google rankings. Okay, we've covered preparation as well as registering your domain, setting up hosting, and installing WordPress. We can now move on to step number 3, which is the fundamentals of WordPress. Whenever you want to log into your WordPress website, enter your domain and add /wp-admin to the end, such as example.com/wp-admin. Then enter your username and password set up in the prior step. You'll then be taken to your WordPress dashboard. We've installed WordPress in a development environment. It's a clean WordPress install, so it should look the same. However, if it's slightly different, don't worry, the fundamentals will all be the same. We would, however, recommend installing a Coming Soon plugin so you can launch your site properly once you're ready for the world to see it. We'll add a link to a video on how to do this in the description below. For similar videos and tips as you build out your website, subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out the videos section. The WordPress dashboard or admin panel is broken down into 3 main sections. At the top, we have the WordPress toolbar. The menu or admin menu is located on the left-hand side, and the main admin areas in the middle, where we will do most of our work. We'll give you a brief overview of each section now. However, for a more detailed overview, watch our free How to Use a WordPress tutorial, which is an introduction to WordPress for beginners. This is intended to get you up to speed on the fundamentals of how WordPress works in about an hour. Alright, so the WordPress toolbar at the top is dynamic and adjusts the available options depending on which page you're on, and if you're viewing the page from the front or the back end. The admin menu located to the left of your dashboard is separated into three main sections. These are the dashboard section, the content management section, and the site administration section. The dashboard section provides easy access to the dashboard, updates, and additional plugin features. The content management section is where you create and manage posts, pages, media items, comments, and additional plugin features. The site administration section is where you configure the design and appearance settings for your website, including selecting the active theme for your website, creating and managing menus, widgets, and customizing your website's theme. It's also where we manage plugins, users, control global WordPress settings, and activated theme and plugin extensions like SEO, social sharing, theme-specific settings, and security. We'll go through some practical examples for each of these in the coming sections once we upload our theme and start working with content. However, one thing we recommend doing before we move on is updating the permalink structure of your website. This will impact how your URL strings will be created for pages, posts, etc. To do this, hover over Settings in the admin menu. This is where you'll manage your global WordPress settings. We covered these in detail in our How to Use a WordPress tutorial. Then select Permalinks. The default option leverages a more general approach, featuring the date in the permalink. However, the more common option and what we'd recommend from an SEO and UX perspective is post name. So we'll select that option and save our changes. You can learn more about each option under the Help tab and choose the best option for you. We recommend doing this before you start creating content so that your URLs are created the way you want. Also, if you want to update your user profile or add users to your website, you can do this by hovering over users in the admin menu on the left and selecting from the options here. Alright, moving on. The menu is fully responsive, meaning that as the screen size gets smaller, the menu adjusts to remain accessible on all types of devices. Lastly, the main admin area serves as our primary workspace and adjusts depending on what's selected from the admin menu. We'll draw your attention to the Screen Options tab in the top right corner. When you open this tab, you'll see a list of options and features that are available for display depending on which page you're on. Similarly, the Help tab to the right shows you helpful hints for the page that you're on, as well as links to relevant documentation. Once again, for a detailed walkthrough of WordPress, we recommend watching our How to Use WordPress tutorial. Okay, now that we've touched on the fundamentals of WordPress, let's move on to choosing and uploading your WordPress theme. A WordPress theme is a group of files that work with the underlying WordPress software to enhance the design and functionality of your WordPress website. For more detailed overview, check out our What is a WordPress Theme article on the Oakland blog. There are both free and premium themes that you can use for your website. The main benefits of using a premium theme is enhanced security, access to support, the inclusion of more extensive theme documentation or instructions, extended functionality, and access to demo content, and pre-built layouts, which for around $50 to $100 is good value for money. Premium support packages can cost $50 a month. So the fact that this is included in a premium theme makes it a smart investment. On the Oakland blog, we've analyzed hundreds, if not thousands of WordPress themes based on speed, design, ease of use, mobile responsiveness, and functionality, which you can access via the WordPress theme reviews category of the Oakland blog. For this tutorial, we'll use one of the consistently top-rated WordPress themes, Ultra by Themify. For $30 off, subscribe to the Oakland blog and you'll be sent a welcome email with an exclusive discount code. The link to the theme is in the description below, or if you're following along on the Oakland blog, you can click on this button here. From here, you can just purchase the Ultra theme, with or without the Photoshop files. Or under pricing, you can select one of their club memberships, which give you access to all of their themes. Depending on which option you choose, you'll get various inclusions for the year. Or you can select their Lifetime Club, which will give you access to everything for life. We have their Lifetime Club as we make use of a number of their themes, but pick whatever is right for you. Enter in your information. If you subscribe to the Oakland blog, enter in the discount code you received in the welcome email and select Next. Add your payment information, then log into your Themify dashboard. The next step is to download a copy of the Ultra theme. From your Themify dashboard, scroll down to the theme section. Click on the Ultra link to download the theme file, which will be a zip file. You will upload the theme file as is, so there is no need to unzip it. If you want to install a child theme, you could use our free child theme generator located under Resources on the Oakland menu by following the instructions. Alternatively, you could use a plugin called Child Theme Configurator. This is best practice, but not essential. To upload and install your WordPress theme, from your WordPress dashboard, hover over Appearance in the admin menu on the left and select Themes. From here, select Add New. Then click Upload Theme. Select Choose File. Navigate to the zip file you downloaded earlier and click Open. Then click Install Now. This will start the process to upload and install the Ultra WordPress theme. Give it a moment to finish. Once the theme is successfully installed, click Activate and your new theme will now be live on your website. Once it's done, you will be taken to your Themify settings page. Once the theme has been installed, you can navigate back to this page at any time by hovering over the newly created Themify Ultra tab in the admin menu on the left and selecting Themify Settings. The first thing we'll need to do is install and activate any plugins required by the WordPress theme we've just installed. In this case, we'll see a notification at the top of the page. To do this, click on Begin Installing Plugins. Select the required plugins and click on Install. We'll click on the option to return to the required plugins installer. To activate the plugins we just installed, select the plugins and then select Activate. Once all the plugins have been installed and activated, we can head back to the WordPress dashboard or navigate back to the Themify settings by hovering over Themify Ultra in the admin menu and selecting Themify Settings. You'll notice that there are a number of tabs within the Themify settings. These include Settings, Skins and Demos, Transfer, and Update. We'll go through the Settings tab in detail shortly, as this is the main tab for controlling the global theme settings for your website. The Update tab is used to control the version of the Ultra theme that's installed on your website. The Transfer tab allows you to import or export data for the Themify settings panel. The tab we'll look at first is the Skins and Demos tab. This tab allows us to leverage demo content to create a well-designed and functioning website in minutes, with just a few clicks. Here, you have the option to import all the demo content, theme settings, menus, and widgets to create exactly what you see on the Themify demo site. That can be viewed by clicking on the View Demo link below each example. Or by following the link in the description below, or by clicking on the button on the Oakland post here to the Ultra page. And then scrolling down to the demo section and following the link to the specific demo site. As part of this theme, you also get access to over 65 professionally designed page layouts that you can use to create your website from scratch, or if you've got existing content on your website. We'll cover off how you can use these shortly. To use one of the skins, you just need to click on the skin you'd like to use and click Save. If you view the site from the front end, you'll see that the skin has been applied. If we select another demo site and hit Save, then refresh the page from the front end, you'll see that it changes the look of your website. Once you've selected the theme you want to use, For example, we'll click on the photography skin. You'll notice that you get the option to import the demo content. If you've already got content on your website, you won't want to import the demo content. However, if you're starting from scratch and you want to use any of the demos as a starting point for your website, then you'll select Import to import the demo content to your website. Depending on which demo you import, you'll be presented with the option to import additional plugins that you'll have access to as part of your Themify membership. Before you do that, decide if it's a feature you want to include on your site. For example, the photography demo includes the Builder Contact plugin, which you may want to use. However, if you don't want to use a contact form on your website, then you don't need to install the plugin. To install the required plugins, from your Themify membership area, scroll down to the Builder add-on section. To download each plugin for the demo you want to use, just click the link on the specific plugin to start the download and repeat for every plugin you want. To upload and install the required plugins, from your WordPress dashboard, hover over Plugins in the admin menu and select Add New. At the top of the page, select Upload Plugin. Then select Choose File. Navigate to the plugin you want to install first, select it and click Open. Then click Install Now. Once the plugin has been installed, select Activate Plugin. Select Add New and repeat the process for the rest of the plugins. You can pause the video and go through this. Okay, great. So now that all our plugins are installed, let's finish importing our demo content. Go back to the Skins and Demos tab by hovering over Themify Ultra in the admin panel and selecting Themify Settings. Then go to the Skins and Demos tab. We can now select the demo we want to use. Make sure to click on the Import option to bring in the demo content. Give it a moment to finish. Once it's done, visit the front end of your website. You'll see that the skin and the demo content is now imported and ready to customize. As you can see, this is a great way to get your site up and running in just a few minutes, with a number of pre-created layouts that make it easy for you to build out the rest of your website. In the following steps, we'll also show you how to build a page from scratch similar to this, using the Themify Builder. You'll notice that this demo leverages a Google map and that at this moment it's showing an error. This is because we need to add a Google Maps API key. That may sound complicated, but it's actually very simple. If you don't want to include a Google map, you can skip this next part and delete this section, which we'll show you how to do later on. To add Google Maps, go back to your Themify settings. Make sure you are in the Settings panel. Scroll down and click on the Google Map option. This is where you will add your API key, and below that is a link that will show you how to generate your API key. We've already got ours, so we'll just paste it in. However, you can pause the video and follow this link to detailed steps on how to generate your key. Once you have it, just copy and paste it into this field. Remember to save your changes. If you go back to the contact page, you'll see that your map is now working. Now, if you decide that you don't want the imported posts and pages, in the Skins and Demos tab, you can select Erase under your skin, which will delete the imported content, but leave the Themify panels, widgets, etc. in place. Okay, let's move on to customizing your website. So far, we've gone through setting up your WordPress website, uploading the theme and required plugins, as well as how to leverage the demo content to get up and running quickly. In this section, we'll look at how to upload your logo, favicon, and style your theme using the customizer, how to update the theme settings, how to create pages, posts, and categories, how to create a portfolio page, how to use the Themify Builder, how to update the menu and navigation, and lastly, how to update the sidebar and footer of your site. We'll then show you how you can access over 10 hours of free content specific to your new website so that you can go through every element in as much detail as you'd like. Lastly, we'll advise you on some best practices and next steps, such as how to ensure your website is discoverable via search engines such as Google, and how you can leverage Google Analytics for free to provide insights on your website traffic and users. So firstly, let's take a look at how to upload your logo and favicon, as well as set your brand color palette. These are your three most important branding elements and will play the biggest role in uniquely identifying your site to visitors. We'll start with the favicon, as this is conveniently located within the theme settings. To access the Themify settings, from your WordPress dashboard, hover over Themify Ultra and select Themify Settings. We'll go through the Settings tab and cover off the fundamentals you need to know later on. The great thing about the Ultra theme is that there are so many options. In fact, we'd need more than 10 hours to cover every option. So what we'll do instead is cover the things that will be most important to everyone, such as setting your favicon, amending your website's header and menu layout, and setting the default layout for pages, posts, and other global elements. We'll cover off on all the most important settings in a bit. In the description below and on the Oakland post, there will be a link to the Themify documentation and detailed video tutorials, which we would recommend opening up in a new tab in case you want further clarification on anything. Within settings, the first tab we have is General. Here, we'll upload our favicon. A favicon is the icon that appears in the browser tab when a user is on your website. Your favicon image will need to be square. However, it can be a PNG image with transparent areas if you want to include a brand element that isn't square. To upload your favicon, click on Upload. Then navigate to your favicon, select it and click Open. Then click Save in the top right corner. Now we'll move on to uploading your logo and choosing your brand colors. We'll do this using the Theme Customizer and run through some of the most important settings. The Theme Customizer is where you have full access over all the global styling options for your website. To access the Theme Customizer, from your WordPress dashboard, hover over Appearance and select Customize. You could also hover over Themify Ultra and select Customize. Either way, it will take you through to here. You'll notice that the Theme Customize panel has two tabs, Basic and Advanced. Most of what we need will be in the Basic tab. However, as the name suggests, we can access more advanced options in the Advanced tab if required. Now, we're not going to go through all of the options, as we'd be here all day. However, what we will do is go through the most important ones, like adding your logo, setting your brand accent colors, and updating the global fonts, etc., so that you have a solid understanding of how to use the Theme Customizer. For this section, we'll refer you to the Theme Customization and Styling documentation, the link to which will be in the description below and on the Oakland post. This guide takes you through every option in the customizer to make sure you have all the information you need. Let's take a look at how we can add a logo to our new website. From within the customizer, scroll down and click on the site logo and tagline option. Here, we can amend the logo and tagline for our website. We'll click on the site logo drop-down. Here we can choose between using the site title as our logo, uploading a logo image, or setting no logo. We'll choose the logo image option. To add our logo, we'll click on the plus icon. We can either upload a logo image or choose an image from the media library. We'll upload our logo to add it to the media library. Set an alt text, which is good practice for all images, and click Insert. This will add our logo to the header of our website. It's good practice to set a width or height parameter to ensure a logo doesn't pixelate or look odd. In this case, we'll set the width parameter of 200 pixels by adding 200 pixels to the first box. If you want the logo to take the user someplace else other than the home page, when clicked, you can add a custom site logo link at the bottom. To commit changes, remember to hit Publish at the top of the Customize panel. And if you view the site from the front end, our logo is now added to our site. And you should also see the favicon in the Browser tab. If we go back to the Theme Customizer, and click on the site tagline option, here we can choose to include text, an image, or show no tagline. We'll choose to show no tagline. However, if you want to include a tagline in your site, here is where you'll do it. Once again, publish any changes. We'll minimize the site logo and tagline options panel. And we'll scroll up to the accent styling tab, which is where you'll add your brand colors if you want to include them as accent colors on your website. To do this, click on the accent styling options dropdown. Here we can set our accent font, background, and link color by clicking on the color selector box. You can either select the color and its opacity, or enter in the hexadecimal or RGBA color code of your brand color. You'll see the elements this affects in the preview panel on the right. Remember that these are global changes and will be applied to your entire site. That being said, you are able to override these settings via an individual Pages Themify custom panel, or via the Themify builder itself. We'll show you how to do this later on. You can amend the header background color and other elements via the header options drop-down by selecting the header wrap option. You can set the background color here. Similarly, you can amend the sticky header options by following the same process in the sticky header options panel. The sticky header is the navigation header that sticks to the top of the page as the user scrolls down the page. This can be disabled via the Themify settings panel we will cover later on. The best way to get up to speed with all the available options is to have a play around and see what works best for your design. Reviewing the documentation and video guides for this section is also a great way to explore your options further. The last thing we'll cover in this section is how to amend the global typography settings for your website. To amend the body and paragraph font, scroll up to the top of the customizer and click on the body options panel. Then choose the body font option. Here you can choose from a web safe font or a number of Google fonts. If you hover over a font in the drop-down, you'll see a preview of that font. Set the default paragraph font size, line height, font weight, letter spacing, as well as a number of stylistic options, and the font color at the bottom. As an example, we'll add a strike through to the body font. You can see that the changes are previewed in the right-hand panel. We'll undo that by clicking on the strike through option and minimize the body options panel. We can do the same thing to set our global heading styles. To do this, we'll click on the headings option. In the preview panel on the right, we'll scroll down to the first section of the page with the two blurbs. If we right-click and inspect one of these headings, we can see that it's a heading 2 or H2. If we want to style all heading H2s in a certain way, we can click on the heading 2 font option drop-down. Let's set the heading 2 font family to something like Dancing Script by selecting it from the drop-down. You'll see in the preview panel that it has now changed. And if you scroll down, all the other heading 2s or H2s on the page now have that font applied. You can also adjust the font weight, line height, etc. to get your design looking just the way you want. We recommend setting your global font styles here, as opposed to doing it on individual pages, primarily because if you change your mind later on and want to adjust anything, you only have to do it in one place, rather than on every page. It will also ensure your design is consistent throughout your website. Okay, hopefully you're feeling relatively confident to go and customize your website further. The only way to get good at this is to get your hands dirty and play around with the various settings to find out what's right for you. Once again, review the customizer tutorial and documentation for more details on any of the settings. Remember to publish any changes you've made before closing the theme customizer panel. Next up, we'll cover off the most important Themify Ultra theme settings. To access the Themify settings from your WordPress dashboard, hover over Themify Ultra and select Themify Settings. We'll go through the Settings tab and cover off the fundamentals you need to know. We will now look at the rest of the settings you will need to get comfortable with and know how to use. These settings not only control largely how your site looks, but also how it functions. Before we jump into the Themify settings, it's probably best if we explain a few things first to ensure we're all saying the same thing. As far as published content goes, the basic architecture of WordPress includes static pages, individual posts, portfolio posts, and archive pages. Static pages are the pages of your website where the content is relatively static. For example, your homepage, about, contact page, etc. Individual posts are the blog posts you create that are relevant to your business, industry, or niche. Individual posts are grouped by categories, which serve as an organizational tool and prove additional context and meaning to users. Tags can also be added to individual posts. Individual portfolio posts are the most commonly used to showcase examples of work or case studies, etc. These function in a similar way to individual posts, where they are associated to a category. Archive pages are typically the category pages and showcase the individual posts or portfolio posts associated to that specific category. Essentially, these pages act as an archive of associated posts. For example, if you add a portfolio website, you may have a category called Projects, with a number of individual posts that each focus on one of your completed projects. If you were to click on the Projects category link on your website, you would be taken to the Projects archive page, which would display all the project posts. This page is what's referred to as an archive page. Okay, so hopefully we're all on the same page and we can now run through the Themify settings. Within Settings, the first tab we have is General. There are a number of options below the favicon which we won't cover. However, we'll draw your attention to the header code section, which allows you to copy code snippets that will be added to the head tag for the pages and posts of your website. This is great for adding Google Analytics tracking code or your Facebook pixel, etc. If you need to add any code to the head tag of your website, this is where you would do it, without needing an additional plugin. As we mentioned, we're only going to cover the things that are most likely important to everyone. Review the rest of the theme settings in each tab on your own to see what's relevant to you, and check out the documentation if you need further explanations. The next tab is the default layouts. This is where we set the default layouts for pages, individual posts, and archive pages as we discussed before. If you want to include blog posts on your website, then you should definitely spend some time adjusting these settings. You'll see that they are very similar to the portfolio archive and post layout options we will spend some time on next. Towards the bottom, we have the default page layout. We'll set the page sidebar option to no sidebar. We'll hide the page title on all pages and disable comments on all pages, as we want to work with a clean slate on all pages and don't want people commenting on any of our pages. Comments on blog posts are fine, but we don't want people commenting on our homepage, for example. Once we've made changes, select Save to commit them. The next tab is the portfolio layouts. This is where we set the default layouts for individual portfolio posts and archive pages as we discussed before. We'll walk you through our preferred settings and provide some rationale. However, you choose whatever is best for you. If you expand the default archive portfolio layout section, the first option is Archive Sidebar option. A number of the layout options will include the placement of the sidebar on your website. The sidebar in WordPress is referred to as a widget-enabled area and allows you to set a global sidebar that appears on all pages, posts, or archive pages where a sidebar is enabled. Themify Ultra has two sidebar widget-enabled areas that you can leverage. These are the standard sidebar and a narrow sidebar, which you can include in your design. We'll show you how to use these widget-enabled areas in the relevant section. If you're new to WordPress, review the documentation to get your head around widgets and widget-enabled areas, as they are a powerful feature. For the portfolio sidebar option, we'll select the option with the sidebar on the right, as this is the most common way to do it. Portfolio layouts allow us to choose how we want individual posts to be displayed on archive pages. Choose the option you like most. Review the display options that sit below that, such as the display content option. We would recommend showing just the post excerpt rather than all the post content. Also, decide if you want to display all the post metadata, such as the author, date, category, etc. To see your changes, view your site from the front end and go to any portfolio category or archive page. In our case, we can go to the home page of our site and click on Portfolio. Play around with the settings until you find the perfect options for you. The next group of layout options relate to single portfolios, which, if we go to the portfolio page and select a specific portfolio, this is the layout this section is referring to. Once again, we'll leave the default layout, but pick whichever is best for you. Go through the options below and trial a few to see what works best. We'll go through creating portfolios from scratch later on, which will cover the same settings and will override whatever defaults you select here for a specific portfolio. Next, we have the Theme Settings tab. By default, the Ultra theme is fully responsive. However, here you can disable this, which we wouldn't recommend. Here, you can also amend the responsive breakpoints, which basically refer to the defined screen widths that represent desktop, tablet, and mobile screens. Once again, it's probably best to leave the defaults unless you have a specific reason to change them. The section we will explore together is the Theme Appearance section. Here, you can set the generic theme accent color and typography. You have more control over these settings in the Theme Customizer panel, which we covered off earlier, so we'll leave this as is for now. However, below that are the various header options you have available, which dramatically impacts the look and feel of your website. For example, if we change the header style from the default horizontal header to header min bar option, save the changes, then refresh the front end of our website, you'll see that the look of the whole site has now changed. Let's go back. We'll change the header back to the default header horizontal option. Have a play around with the various options to see which one you like best. Depending on which header option you choose, the options below that will vary. Many of the options will include the ability to disable the sticky navigation, exclude the site logo or tagline, as well as the option to exclude the search functionality or social icons. Under Theme Appearances, you're also able to pick your footer design from the options available. Based on the design you choose, you'll be presented with additional options. The widget component will be managed via the Widgets tab we will explore in the later section. The text components are managed by scrolling to the bottom of the theme settings page we're now on and adding our text to the fields. The footer styling will be controlled by the Theme Customizer panel. The last tab we'll go through together is the Social Links tab. We will cover how the social widgets can be added to the header or footer of your website via the Widgets tab. And we already covered how to exclude social icons via the Theme Appearance settings in the Theme Settings tab above. In this tab, you'll manage the social platforms you want to include on your website, how they're displayed, and add the links to your accounts. To add a new social platform, say Instagram, scroll down to the bottom and select Add Link. Give it a title, in this case Instagram. Add your Instagram link in the link field. To insert an icon, click on Add Icon. Search for the icon you want to use, in this case Instagram. Then select the icon you want. You can drag the box to rearrange the order. Then hit Save. If we refresh the page from the front, the Instagram logo is now present. And if we click on the link, it takes us through to our Instagram account. To amend the details of an existing social link, just update the details you want to change. For example, the link details, then select Save to commit the changes. To delete the social link, simply click the X icon. Save your changes and the social link is removed. Okay, so those are probably the most important aspects of the Themify Builder. However, please go through the rest of the options and refer to the documentation for further details. It's worth noting that within individual portfolios, pages, and posts, you have the ability to override the Themify settings for a specific page, which is a really powerful feature, allowing you even more control over the design of your website. In the next few sections, we'll go through how to add content to your site in terms of posts, pages, galleries, portfolios, and categories. We'll start by creating the pages we need for our site. We want our photography site to have a home page, about page, contact page, portfolio page, including the individual portfolio pages and portfolio archive pages or category pages, privacy page, services page, and blog page, including the individual post pages and blog archive pages or category pages. In WordPress, the pages for your blog will be managed under Pages in the admin menu. By hovering over pages, you can either view all pages or add a new page. Let's click on all pages for now. If you've imported the demo content, you'll notice that there's a number of pages that have been created already. If we look at your sitemap, we'll see that we have created all the pages we want except for a services page. So we'll create this page now. To create a new page, click Add New. You could also hover over the plus new icon option at the top of the page and select Page. Or from the All Pages tab, click on the Add New button at the top. The first thing you'll want to do is give your page a name. If you've selected post name as your permalink structure, this will be used to create a URL for this page. For this example, we'll call this Services. If you're new to WordPress, we recommend watching our How to Use WordPress tutorial, where we cover the default WordPress options available when creating pages. On the right hand side, you can select if you want to assign a parent page. This will impact the site hierarchy as well as permalink structure. In this case, we'll leave the default of no parent. If we scroll down, at the bottom you'll see the Themify custom panel. We've already gone through setting the default global page settings, but you're always able to override these for individual pages here. We're going to load in one of the pre-designed layouts, which is a full width layout with no sidebar. So in the Page Options tab, we'll set the sidebar option to no sidebar. And we'll set the content width to full width. We'll also select Yes for the Hide Page Title option. This will create a clean slate for us to bring in the pre-designed layout. Remember to occasionally save your page as a draft. To add one of the pre-designed layouts, click on the Themify Builder tab to launch the backend builder. In the Themify Builder tab, click on the Import Layout button. You can either search for a specific layout, view the layouts by category, or scroll through the available options. You can preview layouts by clicking on the Search or View icon. In this case, we'll select the product or service layout by clicking on the layout. You'll be asked if you want to replace or append the layout. We'll select Replace. And the layout is now loaded onto the page. If you preview the page, you'll see the layout loaded in. We'll go through a practical example of using the page builder to customize pages or layouts shortly. For now, we'll save the page. At the bottom of the page, you'll now see the Themify Builder tab populated with content. This is the backend version of the Themify Builder, and the blocks correspond to content on the page. We'll go through an example of using the front-end builder later on. The main difference between the front-end and back-end builder is that you're able to view your changes live as you make them in the front end. To view the front-end builder, click on the Themify Builder button here at the top of the page. If the builder does not automatically open, click the Turn on Builder option from the top of the page. This is the front-end version of the Themify Builder, and what we'll mostly use to customize pages later on. Remember to publish your page when you're ready for it to go live. Okay, for our About page, let's go back to the All Pages page. Edit the About page by clicking on the name or the edit link. Start by deleting the us from the title and edit the permalink to just be about. Remember, if you change a permalink or URL after you've published a post, once your blog is live, you'll need to add what's called a 301 redirect from the old URL to the new URL. This is to avoid Google having crawl errors or 404 page not found errors. The best way to do this is with a plugin like Simple 301 Redirects or something similar. Remember to update the published page to commit your changes live. Go through and create the rest of the pages that you want to include on your website by following the same process. Paint in broad strokes for now, as we'll get to how to use the Themify Builder to customize your pages shortly. We'll focus on getting your website structure and critical elements right first, such as pages, menus, your logo and branding, as well as the global layout settings. Now, let's take a look at how to create blog posts and categories in WordPress. If you want to include a blog on your website, you'll create blog posts the same way. The only difference being that you'll need to set up categories first by hovering over posts and selecting categories. Here is where you'll add the blog categories that you'll assign your blog post to by entering the category name and selecting Add New Category. Repeat this process for all the categories you want to include on your blog. Once you've created your categories, to create a new blog post, hover over Post in the admin menu and select Add New. You'll add a title and your content. Select a category for the post on the right-hand side. Assign a feature image by clicking on the Set Feature Image option on the right-hand side as well, and either uploading an image or selecting one from the media library. The feature image for your post will display at the top of the post page as well as on the listing for that post on any category or archive pages. It will also be used as a thumbnail for the post in the mega menu, which we'll show you later on. Then, preview or publish your post. The default blog page will feature your recent posts, unless you create a custom blog page and set it as your blog page via the Reading Settings tab. For more details on anything we covered or didn't get a chance to cover in this tutorial, follow the links to the Ultra or Themify Builder documentation pages. Here, you can access over 10 hours of detailed content covering every element of this theme. You can also review our How to Use WordPress for Beginners article for more information. Pause the video and create the pages, posts, and categories you want to include on your website before going live. Now that you have your pages and posts in place, we can go through how to add portfolios to your site to showcase your work or talents. For the most part, you treat portfolios the same way that you treat blog posts, with individual portfolios organized under portfolio categories. A portfolio page usually consists of some photographs, a few pieces of informative text, and links to your services or contact information depending on what type of portfolio you create. The Ultra theme comes with a number of attractive and practical portfolio layouts that you can leverage. In this section, we'll show you how to create and edit a portfolio using the content builder that ships with the Ultra theme. To view your portfolios from the WordPress dashboard, click on Portfolios in the admin menu. There will be a number of pre-designed portfolios created when we imported the demo content. Portfolios can be organized underneath categories just like posts and galleries. You can manage portfolio categories by hovering over Portfolios in the admin menu and selecting Portfolio Categories. If we refer back to our sitemap, you'll see that we have 4 portfolio categories: Who am I, UX or UI design, web design, and branding, with a few subcategories. So we'll create these categories the same way as we did for our blog posts by entering a name and then clicking Add New Category. We'll create the Who am I category like this. You can also create subcategories by entering a name, then selecting a parent category from the drop-down. We'll create a category called Corporate Branding and select Branding as the parent. As you can see, Corporate Branding will be created as a subcategory of branding, indicated by this line here. You can also delete a category by hovering over a category and selecting Delete. Portfolios in that category won't be deleted, but will be sent to the uncategorized category instead. We'll skip ahead and create the rest of our categories to reflect our sitemap. You can do the same. When you're satisfied, we can move on to creating portfolio pages for our categories. To create the new portfolio page, hover over Portfolios in the admin menu and select Add New. Or, from the toolbar, select the plus new icon and select Portfolios. As you can see, creating a portfolio looks very similar to creating a post. You can add a title here. We'll type in Mobile Fashion App. You could also add in some content here that would display at the top of the page. We don't want this to interfere with our demo layout, so we'll leave it blank. The same goes for the featured image. However, in the Portfolio Categories box, we will add this portfolio to one of our categories. Depending on how you want your page to be structured, you need to change some settings before importing a layout. To do this, scroll down and make sure you are in the Portfolio Options panel. Here you can change many of the layout settings we saw in the builder for a specific page. These will override any settings for this page made in the theme settings. Most default layouts work best with the sidebar disabled, as this is how they were designed. So we will disable it here. If you wanted to create your portfolio from scratch, you could start off with any of these portfolio layout options. We'll also hide the title. To import the content, let's use the front-end builder this time. Let's save the page and open up the Themify builder by clicking this button. Hover over Layouts at the top and click Load Layout. Scroll through the layouts or search for something like Resume or Portfolio. As you can see, there are a number of portfolio layout options to choose from, with different uses. For example, if we preview Personal Portfolio Layout, you'll see this portfolio page. This page would make a good homepage for your portfolio site, but can be tweaked to act as a portfolio page. If we go back to the layout, you'll see a much simpler portfolio page that could work for a design agency. Lastly, we'll view this parallax portfolio page, which you can see is filled with cool parallax effects. We'll select it as our portfolio page. You can then save the page. In the next section, we'll show you how to use the Themify builder to customize your pages and add in your own content. You could apply these same lessons to your portfolio pages. To ensure you're comfortable using the Themify builder, we'll go through an example of how to customize one of the pre-built layouts to suit your website design. We'll also show you how to create a page from scratch using the Themify builder modules and pre-built rows. Let's create a resume page that will act as a home page for our portfolio site. To do this, let's head to Pages and then delete the existing home page. Click on Add New. In the title, we'll call it Home. Scroll down and choose the No Sidebar option, as well as select Yes for Hide the Page title. Save the page. Then launch the Themify builder. In the description below and on the Oakland post, you'll find the link to the Themify builder documentation, which includes a detailed tutorial and guide for the Themify builder. As everyone's needs will be different, it wouldn't make sense for us to go through all of the options here. Instead, we'll cover the fundamentals of how to use the builder and get you up to speed with the most common features. If you want to dive deeper into anything along the way, refer back to the theme documentation that we've provided the links to. The best way to think about a web page is in terms of rows and columns, or as a grid. If you've sketched out a rough guide of the layouts for each page on your website, then creating them using the builder will be easy. If you haven't done that yet, we'd recommend pausing the video and doing that now, as it will make the process much easier. Once again, go to Load Layout. Then search for the resume page. Select Replace Existing Layout. Once the Themify builder is switched on, you'll see a toolbar appear at the top with a plus icon on the left and a Save button on the top right. The Save button is used to commit any changes you make to your website. And if you hover over the plus icon in the top left, you'll see a panel appear that shows all the available modules you can add to your website. By clicking on the Rows tab there, you can see all the pre-built rows that you can leverage to speed up the process of creating your web pages. Here's a tip. Don't look at the content of the pre-built rows, as the content can easily be changed. Look at them in terms of their row and column layout or structure. Refer to the Themify Builder documentation for a detailed look at the toolbar and the other aspects of the builder that we won't cover in this tutorial. Similarly, follow the link on the Oakland post to the Builder modules documentation. This walks you through every setting option for the modules available to you via the builder. Okay, next. If we hover over the image at the top of the page, you'll see that the purple bar with options appear. This signifies a row. You can also have sub-rows like these within a row, also signified by purple options. On the left-hand side of the bar, we've got the column options for the row. Here we can choose how many columns we want to include in this row, up to 6. To the right of the column options, we've got the options for the row itself. Within there, we can set our row width to either the default. This sets the width of the row to the default row width for the theme. This can be amended via the Theme Customizer panel under the Advanced options, if required. Full width row container sets the row to full width so that when you apply a background image or color, like in this example, it covers the full width of the browser. The content containers within the row, however, are set to the row default width, which is nice as you don't need to worry about adding padding to the columns or modules to push them off the edge of the browser window. Full width content is the last option and makes the row full width, and pushes the columns within the row to full width as well. Below that is the row height options, the ability to add a CSS class, and the option to add an ID or anchor name to the row. The most common way to use the row anchor is when you want to link from one section of the page to another section of the same page. Later on, we will create a menu navigational link that points to the section of the page with an ID or anchor name of services, by giving it a link target of #services. If we scroll down to the services section and click on the row options for the section, we'll give this row an anchor name of services. We will link to this later on when we get to creating menus. Another common use case for this would be linking to a Contact Us section on the same page with the contact form. Alright, back to our row options at the top. The next option is the styling options. Here is where you control the design settings for the row. In this example, if we click on the background option, this is where the background image is set. Your options include an image, gradient, video, or slider. To remove the background image, you would click on the X. You could then either paste in an image or video URL, upload an image or video, or select one from your media library, if you've already uploaded one. You might want to replace this one with a photo of you, for example. Below that, you could set a row overlay color or gradient, as well as an overlay on hover. Below that are the font settings for the row, which includes the alignment, etc. And further down, you can apply padding or margin to the row. It's the padding on this row that's creating the space above these elements in this section. We won't go through all of the settings as we'll go through a practical example in a moment. However, review the theme documentation to get familiar with the options that are important to you. The Visibility tab allows you to show or hide the row on specific devices. And the Animation tab allows you to add animation and set parallax effects. You will need to hit save to commit your changes. The other options you have are the ability to duplicate the row, import or export the row, or delete the row. If we go down to the services section and hover over this section, you'll see that another purple bar appears. This is what's referred to as a sub-row, which we'll show you how to create shortly. You'll notice that you have the same column options available on the left for a sub-row as well as the other options. Below that, you'll notice that the sub-row has two columns, each with an icon and a piece of text. You'll notice that each column has its own styling options. You can also import, export, copy, or paste the column. To delete or add a column, you will need to change the row column settings. Within the column, you'll see that the image and text modules have their own setting options. This is a feature module, which basically acts as a blurb with an icon and some text. To edit any module, in this case the feature module, you can click on the edit icon, or simply double click on the module. To amend the text, type in any text you want. The great thing is that it will preview live for you to see the changes you're making. You can set the heading you want to use in the feature title. If you want to add a link within the text, select the text you want to link, click on the Insert Edit Link option, add the link address, and click Apply. In the Styling tab, you can amend the various settings available for that module. The most common will be under the Font option. Here you can amend the text alignment and various other text attributes, like color, font family, etc. You can go through the rest of the options for each module. You also have the visibility options and animation options for that module, like you did for the row. For example, if we set the animation to slide in right, select Save, save the page, and then open up the page in another tab, you'll see that the feature slides in on load. Let's head back. If we double click on the button module, up the top you can set the size and style of your button. In the text field is where you amend the button text. And we can add the link destination for the button to the link field. For example, we link to the contact page. For this, you don't need to include the www part of the URL, just everything after the .com or root domain. So in this case, /contact. This is what's called a relative path URL. Under the Styling tab, you can customize the design of the button. The most important things will be alignment, which will be controlled under the Font dropdown in the General tab by selecting the Text Alignment option here. On the Button Link tab, this is where you amend the background and background hover color for the button, link and link hover color, the amount of padding for the button text, and border style and attributes. Remember to save any changes you make to a module. If we double click on the text module above that, you'll see that while there are different setting options, they are very similar and function in the same way as the examples we've covered so far. The best way to get comfortable with the Themify Builder is to invest a bit of time exploring the options. Remember to review the documentation if you need more information. So far, we've gone through the basics of updating content. But what if we want to change an existing layout? Let's scroll down to the next section. Here we have a single column section with a piece of text. First, let's duplicate this row by hovering over the row settings in the top right and clicking the duplicate button. You'll see we now have two rows. Let's go to the second row. Say we only want this row to have two columns, a half column and another half column. To do that, hover over the column options for the row and select the two even columns option. Great! Now we can add an image to the right by hovering over the plus icon here, making sure we are in the Module tab and dragging the image module into the new column. You can either upload an image directly or choose one from your media library. You can then style the image by adding a module title, select a drop shadow, rounded corners, border, or making the image a circle. You can use the height and weight to adjust the size. We'll delete our first row and keep the second one. If you want a new row, you can either scroll down to the bottom and create one from scratch by clicking on the plus icon here and adding in the modules you want to use. Alternatively, you can leverage one of the pre-designed rows by clicking on the plus icon at the top of the page, navigating to the Rows tab, Then select the row you want to use and simply drag it into the builder and place it where you want it. From there, you can easily customize it with your content, using the parts you want and deleting the parts you don't want. Okay, so hopefully you're starting to see how easy it is to create a beautifully designed website with just a few clicks. Remember to always save your changes when you're done. And if you're happy with your page, to navigate back to the backend and publish it so the changes go live. The last thing we will need to do is set the home page for our website. To set this page or any page as the home page of your website, hover over Settings in the admin menu and click on Reading. Under the Your Homepage Displays option, make sure that the static page is selected and then choose the page you want to set as your homepage from the homepage drop-down list below. In this case, we want to set home as our homepage, so we'll select it and then click Save. Let's go through the process of creating a new page from scratch. To do this, we'll head back to All Pages. From there, select Add New. We'll give the new page a name. We'll just call ours Test. Before we create the new page, let's once again disable the sidebar and hide the title. Then save it. Once that's done, we'll click on the Themify Builder button to launch the page builder. You'll see that we have a clean slate. From here, we can either build a layout from scratch or use one of the pre-built rows to start our design by hovering over the plus icon at the top, navigating to the Rows tab, and then choosing a specific row. In this case, we'll scroll down to the full height hero banner center row. Then click on it and drag it across to the very top of the page and drop it in. From here, we could customize the elements by double clicking on the element we want to update, say the title for example, add in a new title, and click Save. In the same way, we could add additional rows. For example, we could add the Features row by clicking on it and dragging it across. We could continue down and build out our page by following this approach. We'll delete the Features row for now. In addition to using pre-designed rows, you can also create your own layout from scratch. To demonstrate this, we'll recreate the hero banner layout above, but build it from scratch. To do this, we'll scroll down to the bottom of the page. The first thing we'll do is add in the modules we want to use. In this case, we want to use 2 text modules and a button module. Add in some text and align it to center. We will also set it to heading 1. Save the text module. We'll add in another text module, type in some text, and center it. Then, drag in our button module to sit below that. Set the shape to rounded. We'll make this a Contact Me button and enter /contact into the link field to link to our contact page. Go to the Styling tab and set the alignment to center under the Font section once again. We'll then save the button. We now need to add in the background image to the row as well as the padding to replicate the hero banner section design. To do this, we'll scroll up to the row settings at the top for the hero banner and click on the Edit options. The row width is set to full width row container row and the row height to full height. So we'll change that in a moment. If we go to the Styling tab, we'll see that it's using a background image. For this example, we'll just copy the link URL. However, you will be able to upload your own image, use a video URL, or leverage an image slider instead. Below that, we can see that the background mode is set to full cover, which we will need to replicate. If we click on the row overlay, we can see that it's using a row overlay to make the content stand out more. Okay, so let's scroll down to the section we're creating and click into the row settings. Firstly, let's set the row width to full width row container row and the row height to full height. We'll then go into the Styling tab. Under Background, we'll paste the link we copied from above. Alternatively, you could upload an image or choose one from your media library. We'll set the background mode to full cover. Then under the row overlay section, we'll set the color as black. And then adjust the opacity to be around 50%. We'll just make it look similar. It doesn't need to be exactly the same. Then save your settings. We'll then double click on the text module. Navigate to the styling tab and click on the font option. Here we'll set the font color to white, the font to Oswald, and then select save. Then we'll go into the second text module, also set the color to white and save it. Lastly, double click on the button and make sure that the shape is set to rounded. And there you have it. That's how you'll use the builder to create layouts from scratch. Remember, we've been doing this for years, so if it's a little slower to start with, that's totally normal. Within a few hours, you'll be through the steepest part of the learning curve, and you'll find that this actually becomes quite enjoyable. Slightly addictive even. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense and you're feeling comfortable enough to build out the rest of your page layouts. Follow the link on the Oakland post to the documentation if you need additional info regarding the Themify builder or any of the modules. Now that we have all our content in place on our portfolio site, we can move on to how to create your own navigational menus to make it easy to navigate to the most important parts of your site. The first thing we should do is change our header structure so that we can properly view how menus and especially mega menus work. To do this, go to the Themify settings by hovering over Themify Ultra in the admin menu and clicking Theme Settings. Go to the Theme Settings tab and expand the theme appearance. Then scroll down and change the header to the horizontal header layout. Save your changes. To manage menus, hover over Appearance in the admin menu and select Menus. This is the Menus dashboard in WordPress. The menu you are working with is on the right and the items that you can assign to the menu is on the left. To add more options, click on the Screen Options tab at the top and check the boxes next to the elements you want to add to your menu. We'll enable our portfolio categories so that we can use this to organize our menu. Under Screen Options, you can also enable the ability to set the link target for a menu item, which means whether the link opens in a new tab or not, as well as assign CSS classes. We won't cover CSS classes for this tutorial, but if you're interested in learning some HTML and CSS fundamentals for WordPress, register for one of our courses at courses.oakland.com. Back to the menu options. On the right, you have your menu structure, and the menu settings at the bottom is where you'll manage the location where the specific menu will be displayed. Rather than edit an existing menu, let's go through the steps of how to create a new menu and assign it as our main menu. To create a new menu, click on Create a New Menu. Enter a name for the menu. This is for your reference. Then select Create Menu. At the bottom of the page, select where you want the specific menu to be displayed. In our case, we'll select Main Navigation. To add menu items to your menu, select the elements from the left, then click Add to Menu. From Pages drop-down in the View All tab, we will select our Home, About, Contact, Blog, Portfolio, and Services pages by checking the box next to each and clicking on Add to Menu. We can amend the order by clicking on the menu item and dragging it into position. From the Categories drop-down, we'll go to the View All tab and select any of our blog categories. To add them to the menu, select Add to Menu. You can add items as sub-items of a menu item by dragging them underneath it like this. If you save the menu and preview it from the front end, you'll see that the blog categories sit underneath the blog menu item in a drop-down menu. If we go back, you'll also add your portfolio categories to the menu and drag them into place underneath the portfolio menu item. We can then create a mega menu for our portfolio menu item by expanding it and choosing one of the options from the mega menu drop-down. We'll choose the Mega Posts option. We'll then click Save Menu. To preview what this looks like, we'll navigate back to the front end and refresh the page. When you hover over the portfolio link now, you'll see a mega menu open up. The categories will be shown in a list on the left and portfolios with their feature images will be shown on the right. If you click on one of the categories, you will be taken to that category archive page with all the categories underneath it. The same goes for the blog categories in our menu. Let's head back to the menu section. Once again, pause the video and create the rest of your menu structure. You'll create other menus like your footer and sidebar menu exactly the same way. When you're happy with the structure, you can further customize the appearance of your menu via the theme customizer, by hovering over appearance in the admin menu and selecting Customize. You can also add custom links to your website's menu. To do this, click on the Custom Menu Link option on the left. Add the URL for where you want the menu item to link to. In this case, we want to link to the services section on the page, so /services, and the link text that you want featured in the menu. Then click Add to Menu and drag it to where you want it to be positioned in the menu. If you want the custom link as an organizational tool and not a link, you can set the link URL to a hashtag, and if the user clicks it, it will only reload the page they're on. There are a few instances when you may want to do this, so now you know how. Let's go to the front end to test our services link. If you refresh the page and click on Services, you'll see that it takes you down to the relevant section. Okay, let's head back to the menu. To amend the footer menu, you'll approach it the same way, by either selecting the footer menu that was created with the demo content and amending the menu items, or creating a new footer menu following the steps we just went through. Remember to refer to the documentation for further information regarding the menu options available with the Ultra theme. Once you've got your primary navigation menu working the way you want, we can move on to updating the sidebar and footer of your website using widgets. The sidebar and footer in WordPress are referred to as widget-enabled areas and allow you to set a global sidebar or footer that appears on all pages, posts, or archive pages where a sidebar is enabled. Widgets are managed in their own dedicated section, which you can access by hovering over appearance in the admin menu on the left and selecting Widgets. On the left, you have all the available widgets, and on the right are the widget-enabled areas. You'll see the two sidebar areas plus the social widget area that sits in the header, as well as the footer social widget area that sits in the global footer. If you imported the demo content, there may already be widgets added to the various sidebars and other widget areas. If we go to the blog page of our site, on the right hand side, this is the sidebar widget area. If we go back to the widget panel, you'll see that the widgets that have been added to this area align with what's being displayed in our sidebar. To add a widget to the sidebar or any widget enabled area, simply click on the widget on the left, select the widget enabled area you want to add the widget to, and select Add Widget. Once the widget has been added, you can drag it into place. Click on the widget to amend its settings. Once you've updated the widget, hit Save. To delete the widget, click on the widget, then select Delete. If you go back to your front end, you will see any widgets you added in the widget enabled area. Okay, so that's a quick crash course on widgets. There are theme-specific widgets down in the bottom like the Themify Social Icons widget that you can add to the header or footer to link your social accounts, etc. In the Themify settings or in the Page Options tab for individual pages, you can change the overall layout of your widget-enabled areas as well as where they will display on the pages where they are enabled. For more information on using the Themify widgets, check the relevant section in the documentation. Once you've got your portfolio website looking the way you want and you're ready to launch your site, there's a few good practices that you should follow to ensure you get the best results. If you want your blog to be searchable via search engines like Google, then you will need to index your blog. To learn how to do this, we've added a link to our video on the Oakland post here. In this video, we'll show you step by step how to add your blog to Google search. Similarly, if you want to monitor traffic and user behavior on your blog, then you will want to install Google Analytics. Yes, we've created a video on how to add Google Analytics to your blog as well. You can find the link on the Oakland post. And that wraps up our how to make a portfolio website tutorial using WordPress. If you like this video, hit the like button and remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos related to WordPress, digital marketing, and how to run a successful site. Your feedback is appreciated, so please leave a comment below and tell us what you liked or if there was anything you found difficult, so that we can put together additional videos to help support you as you build your website. To get access to exclusive discounts, free tutorials, and to stay in the loop on the latest updates, sign up to our newsletter at ohklyn.com. And until next time, happy building!